delay in getting started. Real quick announcement before we get into the main meeting session. We promised this right at the start of the year, some of you might remember. We're finally doing it. We're having a hackathon, which is us versus Southampton. Sam, can you just have the next slide for me, please? Cheers. So this will be on the 19th and 20th of March, so 3 weeks on Saturday. Will be an in-person event, so we're finally having an in-person hackathon. I think it's been a couple of years since the university's had an in-person hackathon. So it should be a good amount of fun. As well as just fun, it is going to be a bit of friendly rivalry, but it's not just going to be a competition. If you guys just want to come along and have fun, that's absolutely fine. Hackathons are meant to be fun. You come along and build something with friends. If you've not got a team by then, just come along on the day and we'll get you into groups. Build absolutely anything you want. We've also got some suggested categories. We put them out on Discord. Things like game jam, for a better future, and I think bringing people together for one of them might be wrong. We've got a ton of prizes. I think Tom mentioned we've got things like notebooks, umbrellas, hats, beanies, rucksacks. We've got a lot of prizes to hand out. We'll have some catering on the weekend as well to keep you guys nice and fueled. We've got a QR code in the top link, also a €20 there, and the links in Discord. So it should be good. Currently we're doing a location TBC, we're just working out some final details, but it should be a really good event, so make sure you sign up to that, and it should be a good time. Do you have any questions at all, or anything I missed? Okay. All the details are in Discord, and you've probably got a few emails as we set things up today, so it should be good. Yeah, that's all. Come along, help us beat Southampton, and we should be good. And over to Amber.
Switch through the slides.
Sure.
Right, evening guys. Hope you're both doing well. Yeah, hope you had a nice day. So yeah, today I'll be talking about hierarchical task analysis. First of all, you're both second year, right? You're third, yeah, okay. What course? Computer science, okay. Do computer science do development for your usability at all? Did you do that second year? When did you go?
It was kind of touched on in web programming.
Okay, so yeah, you haven't covered this. What about you?
First year did like usability, like briefly.
Briefly, okay. What course?
Computer science.
Computer science, okay. Well, you're most likely going to cover this in second year. It's basically another UX design process which is not as popular as the other, like, for example, projects such as low or high fidelity, but it is also as useful as the same level as those two. So yes, please, Sam, if you can go next slide. So in general, what are tasks? So it's what the user has to do pretty much, where each task should be meaningful, and what you choose should have a reasoning behind it, why you decide to do that. It should be associated with a goal. That goal can be also set by yourself, by your client, for example, but it just has to be a goal at the end, you know what I mean? So, and identifiable by the user. So what I mean by that is basically grammar-wise, you just have to use the correct word so it doesn't get well, misread by someone else, maybe possibly in the future. Next slide, please. So, what is a task analysis? It's basically a process of analysing the way people perform their tasks. So the things they do, you basically split them down into the actions they can take, which brings me on the next point, so the things they act on. So what you are out to do is basically split up the tasks into the specific order of what you want to do it in. And the things they need to know. So if you're planning an application, for example, you have to lay it out clearly what you want you're going to show on the application before it's actually done. So if it makes it satisfactory with needs, you know. Next slide, please. So why do task analysis? It's a good way of doing a quality check. So you just go through, for example, with the client, you get a check with them, seeing is this what they want? Every single stage is this exactly that meets satisfactory. It breaks complex tasks into steps, so moving on to the second point, it covers everything within the planning phase, or actually creating an application or any sort of system. You basically split down everything, I mean, a task analysis could be done from something very simple to very complicated. It could go on forever if you wanted it to. And it reduces mistakes. I mean, this is common with all the other two prototypes as well. The planning phase is always the area where you just find out the mistakes and let other people look at it, and the little mistakes where you can't even see, someone else might be able to pop it out and yeah, problem solve that way. And it's a way of identifying skill and resource for each process. So you can plan beforehand what you need to do in that phase, because every task analysis might need something different. It all won't be the same. Next slide, please, Sam. So I've got an example here of a real life scenario where the task for this is to write a letter and prepare for posting. So we have 4 tasks beforehand, but the main task is well, like I said, write letter and prepare for posting. So the first is prepare for writing, write letter, prepare envelope, and put letter in envelope. So each of these tasks have got, well, more tasks underneath each one. So a task within a task. Let me say that, but I'll expand later what I mean by that. And yeah, so for example, prepare for writing, you've got get a paper, envelope, pen, address book. Second one, write a letter, write address, addressee's address, write date, write body of text, letter, sign off. And yeah, so you write a name on the envelope, address on the envelope. It's basically the standard of writing letter and sending it off. Next slide, please. And we need to plan to describe how each task should be performed. So not every task will be done orderly. Some can also be done flexibly. So going back at the previous example which I just showed, for the task 1, it can be done in any order. Like you could get the envelope paper or pen whenever you want. It can be done in any order you like it to be. So that's flexible. But when it comes to the next 3 tasks, so plan 2, 3, and 4, they all have to be done in an order. I mean, for example, when you're writing your address today, you're all writing them down and then starting the letter that way. So you get the gist, right? So it's sort of like just the 3 plans here, just all done orderly, whilst the main one is just flexible. So it's just down to your own perspective. Next, please. So task decomposition is a process in which task is split into subtasks by order. So the 4 tasks which I showed before in the example, they're subtasks of the main task, which is write a letter and send it off. So they're all subtasks of that. But this can be split down into further, which I'll show you an example in a minute. The aim of a task decomposition is to describe the actions the user can do. You structure them and they describe orders of the subtask. Each task can have as many subtasks as you want. It's just down to the relevancy or even the demand per task analysis of how far you actually want to stretch it down to. And when you compare that to hierarchical task analysis, it's a process to understand goals and behaviours. So you set certain goals and your aim is just to achieve them within this subtask. So this is slightly different than normal task analysis, as these are only aimed at specific areas, not as big as like normal task analysis. And hierarchy of tasks and subtasks describe the order, like I mentioned before. I'll show in the next slide, if you could go to the next slide, please. So this is a layout of a, example of a hierarchy task analysis. So 0, which in the previous example was write a letter and send it off, is the working task. And the 4 plans are the subtasks here, as you can see. Now, you can get a subtask after that as well, which is known as an elementary task. And these are usually the areas where people leave it at, but if your project is quite a large project, people do go into like specific activity, but that is very rare. I will show an example of one where they do use it, but for example, second year, well, in our case, it's not as important. I mean, we don't really need to do it as much. Maybe some areas, but not as far as I've seen it so far. So. Next slide, please. This is an example of mine. I did it for my coursework last. It's just one area. It was basically, I was doing a web medication application, a UX designer, so low, high fidelity prototype along with this to show, my lecturer how the process is going to work. And this is only one task out of the application which I wanted to show. because it's quite straightforward and it makes sense more than the others because it's like just less wordy. So this is just a prescriber medication. So the 4 main subtasks are just examine patient, records condition, select appropriate medication, select correct dosage, and give administration info. So from here, we weren't told to dig in too deep because it was just just to give a rough idea of what she wanted to see at the time. So we only go into elementary task on the administration info, which is just to explain how to administer for, explain when to give medication, and give dosage info. So it's pretty straightforward. But this is like I said, it's quite a straightforward task analysis. So the next slide I'm going to show you now is a much more in-depth task analysis. So this one's about checking bank account balances. For this one, you only have 3 main subtasks. So open application, access account information page, and select the appropriate account. So before I show the next, the elementary tasks, can you guys guess at all what it could possibly be? For either one of them. I mean, it's got multiple answers, let me say it that way. Any ideas at all?
Well, open application is pretty self-explanatory, so can't really think of a subtask like that one.
Okay.
Maybe for the account information page, like you might need to navigate through menus.
Exactly. Any ideas for the last one at all? Or
I think that sounds pretty self-explanatory.
you're pretty much right, yeah. So, next slide. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I sort of find this a bit pointless, just select appropriate icon. It's sort of just repeating itself, so you are correct on that behalf. But then, yeah, when you come down to access information page, these two, I don't know why he's done it twice, but I believe once for web application, once for mobile application, so it sort of makes sense. But if I just show you on this one, it says slide bank, well, this is a mobile one, slide bank slider, select my accounts button, and sign up with account information. So you can pretty much break it down to as simple as possible if you want. And next slide. And again, these are the specific activity, like I mentioned before. I mean, most of the time you don't really go in this deep, but it's still useful if you have a very picky lecturer, for example. But yeah, so for the mobile application, just recall username, password, enter username, enter password. So it's quite straightforward. It's just like giving main commands in the specific activity section. So yeah, next bit, slide. Yeah, so like I said, it is a very useful tool. Task analysis. It's not as popular actually as the other prototypes. You find out a bit on the market, but it is actually getting more popular, and it's actually quite straightforward. It's not as complicated as you think it is, like when comparing it to the other prototypes. But yeah, no, that's about it. And if you go on to the next slide, please, Sam. Yeah, if you guys want, it won't take any longer than 15 minutes. Would you guys like try out to make a task on this quickly? I've given you a few examples here, but if you guys were here when making the flight application, I think you were here, if you remember. Do you still have it on you at all or not? Well, I mean, you don't need it, but you could just do a task. Well, I've given examples here of tasks which you could just do a quick task analysis on, just to see, see how the process works basically, and if you have any questions, just feel free to ask. But that's about it, to be honest, with task analysis. It's not a very in-depth topic. I mean, it's quite straightforward. So, yeah, I mean, thank you. But yeah, no, I mean, give it a go, I can help you out with it. So, just feel free.
So if you remember the last UX session, I believe, we did show you a Figma tutorial, how to build a prototype, how to basically make the input fields work, how to make it interactive, and we went over the whole journey of building 3-page registration screens, basically. And that was mainly the basics of Figma. So who used WordPress before? WordPress? Cool. So WordPress is a CMS, a content management system in which you can use for the website. And one of the biggest advantages of using WordPress is that you can install something called plugins. They're like extensions, the ones that you install on your browser, and they give you some sort of like functionality or tools that you can leverage to work faster and more efficiently. So the same thing applies in Figma. Figma has thousands of different plugins that you can install to work smarter, harder, and it sounds like motivation speech, to work faster and more efficient. And literally, these are the ones that I use quite often. So I listed the top 10 or 11 plugins that I think that you will need, whether you're building a prototype for your graduation project or for whatever project you want to build, and they make your life way easier. So without further ado, let's get started. But once we finish, you have this link, link.tree/Beyond Studio, I believe, yeah, that's the one. You can use it to get access to the links for all of these plugins. With a single click, you can open the plugins profile and install it immediately from there. So we're going to go over these plugins really quick, show you how they work and what their advantages are. And if you have any questions after, please let me know. Cool. All right. So the very first thing that we have here, so this is just like a template that I'm using to demonstrate these plugins. So it's a very basic template. And because the first two sessions, they were mainly a mobile prototype, this time I was like, why don't we do a web version this time? So as you can see, we have this very basic header and this slider as well. We're not going to be designing it in a way that is final. I'm just going to demonstrate the plugins and how we can use these plugins to make this look better. So the very first plugin is called Unsplash. So if you remember last time, in order to download an image, we needed to go to unsplash.com or Pixabay, one of these websites that provide you with royalty-free images. We needed to download them, then import them to Figma. And to be honest, if you're building a website with a lot of images, this takes a lot of time. So you can simply go to Unsplash profile on Figma.com community and install it. And once you install it, the really cool thing about Figma, you can install it and you won't have to refresh the page. You can just click on this icon here, go to plugins, and you can see all of the plugins that you have there. So Unsplash is a great tool. In order to import any image, of course, we need first a canvas. So let's maybe perhaps choose a rectangle. You can use any of the other shapes. I am going to put it right there. And then you just select your canvas or your shape, and then you go to plugins, and then you click on Unsplash, right? Once this opens, now you have various categories you can choose from. So there are ready categories, or you can search as well. So let's say you're looking for like a human or someone like to. This is very vague. You might want to be like a little bit more specific. But for example, let's choose this one, and with a simple click, you have it now on your prototype. Like easy. It doesn't take time at all. In comparison, if I want to put the same thing on my prototype, I have to go to Unsplash, search for the image, download it, and import it. What's really cool is that it works with all shapes, so you can import a circle and it will work the same way. And once you have it here, you can just simply resize it and do whatever you want with the image. So that's the first tool, and it doesn't just work with shapes. You can also use it for like backgrounds. So if we want to remove this clean design and have a background or wallpaper for our website, we highlight the entire canvas here. Then we apply the exact same thing. We go to Unsplash, and one of the cool features, like if I'm too bothered, to be honest, to select an image. I can click on insert random, or I can click on abstract, and it will just give me any abstract image here. So it's really cool. It's an interesting tool, but of course, if you're putting an image like that, make sure that you put an overlay so that the text will be visible. This is not very UX friendly, so make sure that if you're using images with a lot of contrast and a lot of things happening in the background, you put an overlay with some opacity so that it looks neater. So that's the very first plugin. It's called Unsplash. I highly recommend you use it. The second plugin is called Feather Icons. So last time we had to go to flat icon, and if you remember, we wanted these icons like the back icon, the arrow, and all of these icons that we will need in our prototype. Again, it's really time consuming. You'll have to go to every website, search for the icons, download them, then import them. This plugin saves a lot of time. So let's say we want to have a button. So I'm just going to copy this button. And let's say we want to have it here, but I don't want to just have like a gesture. I want to have like an arrow to show that this is an actual button. So I go again to my plugins, I click on Feather Icons, and it will show you a library of so many icons that you can use. So if you want an arrow, for example, you have so many of those. You can just simply choose your favorite and import this easily. So of course you'll need to adjust the size and so on, but let's say let's adjust it like that. And I have my icon here. And what's so cool about it is that it gets imported as SVG. So it's not PNG or JPEG, so you can simply resize it without pixelating the icon. You can also change the color of the icon, and you can just get creative with your placement. So yeah, this is the second icon, and an alternative plugin to Feather Icons would be Icons 8. So they have more icons there, and feel free to browse other plugins that might provide the same functionality. So the third plugin that we have is Lorem Ipsum. So if you're gonna prototype, who knows about Lorem Ipsum? Everyone, yeah? So if you're gonna build a prototype for a project and you don't have time to keep going online and copying this Lorem Ipsum text, the sample text, the dummy text, or you don't want to invest a lot of time coming up with text that is relevant to the project, you can just simply do the following. So I'm gonna move this button here. I'm just gonna copy some text from here. Of course, you can create it from there, but I'm just gonna do it because it's faster. So let's change the color to, okay. So now we have this text, and let's say I don't want to have random text. I just want to have Lorem Ipsum to show that this is a text placeholder. So I just select the text canvas. I go to the icon here. I click on plugins and I click on Lorem Ipsum, and then it will show you how many sentences do you want to fill this text. So is it 5? Is it 6, 7 sentences? You can also choose paragraphs if it's a long placeholder, and you click on generate, and there we go. You have your text there, and it's that simple. So this is the third plugin that's quite useful. Now the fourth plugin is called Blobs. This is really one of these plugins that can turn your design from an okay design to a really nice design. If you remember the photo that we just imported on the slider, it was okay because it was just like a square and it looked kind of odd, but look how interesting this plugin is. So if you click on blobs from the plugins, it will pop up this small box, and you can create these shapes that you can use as image placeholders, or maybe just to make your design more and more unique. So you can choose the complexity from here, and you can choose the uniqueness, and it changes accordingly. So let's say I want something rounded like this. I insert it. Then, because it's an SVG, you can also, because it's a vector file, you can resize it. And I can put it right here. And then simply, I can go to Unsplash, and this is how plugins now work together, and they complement each other's features. So I click on Unsplash, and then I just choose any image. So again, let's choose the same image so that you can compare how different the design is now. Oops. So first you'll need to click on the canvas, of course, then click on, and look how neat this is. So it's really one of these plugins that you can get really creative with, because there are so many shapes that you can generate from blobs, and you can just simply keep changing shapes. And imagine if you have this website where you can even use one of these shapes actually as like a background for your sections. So you can like even adjust the shape and get creative with it. But again, I highly recommend that you use it, because you can have multiple shapes on each other, each have a different opacity, and it will give you a very nice look and feel. So this is the fourth plugin, blobs. Use it. The fourth one, which also can transform your prototypes, which is Blush. If you've ever went to a website and you've noticed these illustrations, they really give a nice look and feel on the websites. So this is similar to feather icons, but it's way more advanced because it gives you a variety of different illustrations for your website. So if you go to Blush here, and it's all for free, by the way. You might find some paid packages, but mainly it's all for free. So let's say you're looking for like certain set of characters to use for the rest of your website. Whether you're building, I don't know, like sports website or a corporate website, you'll always find something suitable. But if you click on this, for example, I can just simply import it. So maybe this one is more interesting. So let's just drag it there. Oops. So, because again, it's an SFG, you can simply like resize it without any problems, and it will not get pixelated at all. And as you can see, so really like you have a lot of options what to do with your designs. But to be honest, this page is looking better already, and we're not even doing anything design related. We're just placing elements from the plugins that we have. So imagine how much you can do with this plugin in terms of making the website look more advanced. So this is also the fifth plugin, and actually I have a trick with this plugin. So if you have like a floating illustration, sometimes what I personally use, like for example this illustration is doing yoga, right? You can get one of the shapes and you can like place it and you can send it to back and perhaps change the color of the box and maybe just adjust it a little bit to look like a table or something. If you have like a section below it, you can put this on the top of the section and it will look like the illustration is sitting on the section, and this is how you can get creative with your designs. So let's say this illustration, if it's sitting here, it will look quite nice on your page. So yeah, that's Blush, and you can think now how you can use blobs and Blush together to have this unique shape, and then use the illustration on top of the shape. This way, your slider or your landing screen will look way more advanced. So yeah, that's Blush. Wireframe is also one of these tools that saves a lot of time. So let's say, for example, you're building a section about the latest articles, right? And of course, you don't have data to put in your prototype, because it's just like a wireframe at the end. You just go to so our 6-byte wireframe, yep, wireframe, it's there. And wireframe gives you a library of different wireframes that you can use for your website. So let's say you need buttons, you need like different placeholders for different stuff. There are so many wireframes that you can use, mobile wireframes, desktop wireframes that can accept images and accept different kind of elements. So if you go to web wireframes, you can see like these kind of wireframes that you can just simply import to your page. So let's look for one that is suitable. It can be anything really, but usually you use wireframes if you want to have like a placeholder for an image with a text under it and so on. I'll leave it to you to check the best ones, but all of these inside, like this one for example, like you can customize each element within the wireframe. So that's why it's not just an image, is actually a canvas, and you can edit every single part of this wireframe. You can change the colors, you can change the images, and so on. So they can act as like initial templates or skeleton for your page, which will make your work way faster. Browse it, and you will be surprised by the variety of wireframes that you're going to find. Okay, so the 7th plugin, Morph. Morph is also one of these plugins that can really transform your design. It's one of my favorites, actually. And if you use it well, it will make a huge difference on your website. So let's open Morph. First of all, you will need to select an element. I'm not going to create a new element now, but let me just select any element for now. So Morph provides different kind of tools to transform the way the elements look on your website. So if you have like text and you're doing like a dark version website, you can use like the neon feature, right? The neon feature can like give this neon effect to your text, and you can change the color of the neon and stuff. So it's quite interesting. What's more interesting about Morph, if you use it with shapes, actually. So let's again go here, plugins, Morph, open Morph. You can use, for example, the first option, which will look at the difference between both blocks, and you can change the intensity, you can change the surface, you can even change the color. So it's really up to you how you want to work with it, but it will look very nice if you use it as a background for an image or a background for an illustration. Definitely this doesn't look very appealing, but you can get creative with it because they have a lot of options, and each option can provide a different design for your website. So this literally looks like a very nice background for let's say an illustration, right? Because if you just put an illustration there, it's a very clean design. But if you put such an element and the illustration on it, it gives this advanced design look and feel. So this is Morph. It's also very interesting. Color palettes and better font picker. I'll explain both at the same time. One of the main challenges when you're building your prototype, mainly if you don't have branding guidelines and if you're not working with a company that they have set of branding guidelines, certain colors to use, and as we discussed last time, you can save your colors to keep reusing them and not to copy the color code every single time. You can get some inspiration from color palettes. So color palettes provides you a list with certain colors that work really well together. So let's say you're building a page for a certain project and you're not sure about the branding. You don't have to worry because this provides you with a list of all of the colors that you can use and that they go well together. Because sometimes it's a huge and it's a make it or break it kind of thing. If you use different colors and they don't fit together within the website, it will break the design. So it's really simple because you can change the color, for example, of this background by this button. You can change the color of this button's background by clicking on it, clicking on the color that you like. Let's say you're following the palette number 1278. I click on the red color, I copy it, and then I just paste it immediately here, and I have my color. So you don't need to go to another website to get the hex code for the color or so on. You just click on the color that you like and you change it immediately. So yeah, obviously if you want to have these colors consistent across all of your pages, you want to save them and you don't want to keep using the plugin. So this is just for inspiration. The other plugin, which is Better Font Picker. So usually you have your font on the website, but you're not sure if it's the best font for you. So Better Font Picker, it will basically detect your current font and it will give you better suggestions related to your design. So I'm not sure if they're using AI or any other kind of tool technology, but it's a really interesting tool because it shows you the ones that fit your design the most, and it's the ones that are similar to the fonts that you're currently using. And what's really cool about it, you can just keep clicking and it will keep changing immediately, and you can see how each one of them look on your website, on your prototype. So yeah, that's one of the top advantages here. It's very visual, you can keep changing, and to be honest, I personally find some of these fonts better already for the website. So yeah, these two fonts are great. They go hand in hand, and you can always use them in any project. So the last two plugins for today, we have Annotated, which is an essential plugin if you're working with a team on your prototype, especially if you're working, like one of the modules I'm doing this year is interaction design, and I'm using with my team Figma to build a prototype. So what's the best way to document the changes and give feedback on other people's designs? This is basically the ideal way to do it. There might be other plugins, but personally I like this plugin the most. So Annotated, basically, you select the element that you want to leave a comment on. Once you select it, you create on click annotation, and then you write your feedback title, feedback description, and you can even give it a color. And as you can see, it added this number here, and if you go down at the bottom of the wireframe, you'll find each element with the number and the feedback right there. So let's say I want to leave feedback right here. I can just click on add new. It added number 2. I can leave my feedback for button. Feedback description goes here. So and if you scroll down, you can see also how it breaks it down, and you can create multiple frames as well. So if you want to have like separate blocks, each one of them have even like feedback or to be honest, this is mainly used when you're moving your design, your prototype from this design phase to development phase. So if I want to tell the developers, when you click on this button, it has to go to this page, it has to act this way. If you're having a registration form, let's say, and you want to tell the developers what kind of characters to accept, what's the length of this input field, these kind of things, this is where you put it, basically. So yeah, it's one of these interesting plugins. And the one that saved a lot of my time, and I'm sure it will save a lot of yours, which is wireframe. So let's just make it a little bit prettier here. I'm gonna actually reuse blobs. I'm gonna insert this, and I'm gonna just place an image using Unsplash. So let's go to one of these. So let's say I want to place this one. Now, let's say you just finished your prototype and you want to publish it somewhere, or if you want to share it with whoever. Usually, how you go about that, you need to download a PSD or an AI wireframe or a mockup, and then go to Photoshop and replace the screen with your image, and it's just a long process. But with this plugin, you can just simply click on mockups, and then you need to select, of course, the entire page. So it's the landing page, which is right there, and then with a click of a button, you have a mockup for your designs, and you can download any of these images. So it still did not pick up on my last edit. If you refresh and then you do it, it will pick up. But imagine like how you can export different kind of mockups for your design and use them online. Definitely, there are some mockups that are paid, so it's a very cheap subscription if you really want to invest in this. But there are some of them that are free, and yeah, you can get creative with your mockups as well. So that was like just a quick overview over some of the top Figma plugins. You can find all of them on this Linktree URL. Feel free to test them now if you want. If you have any questions, let me know. But hopefully in upcoming sessions, let us know what you want to know more about. If it was Figma, if it was something else. If it was Figma, what exactly would you like to know more about? Would you like to have another session on the top plugins that you can use? Because obviously some of these plugins can save you a lot of time. And yeah, why invest all the time into doing something if there's another way of doing it easier on the website? So yeah, that was it. We'd love to hear from you. We'll be shooting like a forum on Discord or something to ask people and ask you guys what you'd like to see next time. And good luck using Figma.
speaking of next time, this room is double booked next week, so we do have no session next week, which is very sad. We'll be the week after. That's all we can.
Would that be the parallel